Hello, everybody. It's Heather with the Leadership with Heart podcast. And today I am thrilled to have Brent Kondritz on. Now, he and I met at University of Dayton. There was a leadership institute that he runs, and he had me in there as a speaker and presenter to the group there. And I really loved his inquisitiveness around leadership and obviously unique insights, but super open. Having been doing this for so long, I was really surprised how open he was to kind of learn new things, engage in different ways, and then also not express his own opinion necessarily, but just to see how everybody else kind of comes out, which I think is a really big sign of leadership. So welcome, Brent.
Great. Thanks, Heather. I appreciate the opportunity for us to reconnect today.
Yeah. So where are you? I said where you are in your leadership journey from a logistical, but yeah, tell the listeners a little bit more about that.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I am currently the executive director at the University of Dayton Center for Leadership, and really lead the general operations of our center. For those of those out there that maybe don't know who the Center for Leadership is, or the UD Center for Leadership, we're really kind of a unique and powerful resource that was created really by some of the region's most successful organizations. So our organization was really created outside in, as compared to a lot of organizations being inside out. So, together we really partnership with top thought leaders like yourself, of course, to provide innovative and world-class education to senior level leaders, what we call our emerging leaders, which is that mid-level leader, frontline supervisors, and professionals. So that's kind of what I do. I started at the UD Center for Leadership back in 2010, really managing our emerging leader and executive development programs, and have been fortunate to advance over these years. And I really consider myself, I think, really lucky and quite honestly blessed to be able to work and learn from so many great people that are committed to being better leaders. And I think the last thing that's just really important to me is that I so believe in the work that our center does and the part that it plays in the development of leaders. And I think, and I hope that you saw that when you were here as well too, that bringing in great thought leaders like yourself and regional thought leaders that we work with closely can just make a huge impact on not only someone individually as a leader, but the ripple effect and that multiplier effect of being able to work with others too.
I love that. Earlier, I was mentioning the concept of, leaders speaking last. So, the fact that you were, even more quiet during the session, not inserting your opinion when you've got years and years and years of having education in this, now leading other people, but kind of keeping, do you tend to be that kind of leader anyway, who kind of talks last?
I try to. That would depend. You may ask my team; they may think differently. But no, I really try to. And again, I mean, I come back to what I mentioned earlier with just being really blessed to work with a lot of great leaders. So again, whether it's thought leaders that come in to teach and train, whether it's the team. We have a great team, a really strong team, a team that's very knowledgeable. They're passionate about what they do. And then I also think about all those customers and leaders that we serve. So, I mean, I'm surrounded by thousands of really exceptional leaders every year. And, I get feedback at home all the time that maybe I shouldn't talk first. So I think that maybe that helps me in the workplace as well too, right? I mean, there's a lot of great ideas. So I think part of my role and responsibility is to be more of a facilitator of those ideas. I'm not scared to make a decision. My team will tell you that. I will definitely make a decision. But there's a lot of things I just don't know, or I'm not close enough. And that information and that knowledge is critically important and quite honestly, really helpful and needed.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I'm curious to know where your drive to lead comes from. Like, what is it that makes you want to lead a leadership institute such as you're doing right now? What is it that the driver for you?
Yeah, I think that it really comes down to that commitment is the fact that in believing in something and really understanding like the impact that it can make on others. I enjoy and get a lot out of seeing others become the best version of themselves. And I really always have. So whether it's in sports, whether it's in school, whether it's through our center, that opportunity to see people grow and develop is extremely exciting. I'll share with you one of the things that really fills my tank is we have these great certificate programs, these wonderful certificate programs for supervisory leaders, mid-level leaders, and women leaders. So we just created this new women's lead program a couple of years ago, and it's fantastic. And the one thing I love about those programs is on graduation day. So every graduation, we ask a number of students, hey, would you like to speak? And they speak, and their managers here, their mentors here. Many times they have their family members here. And each time when they really share their success, and then for them to come back and to talk about the wonderful things that they're doing and to be able to see the impact that they're making, like to me, that's enough. Like that's all that I need. So I think a lot of that drive really comes back to just believing in something and the impact that it has. And I think a lot of that probably comes just through like family, friends, my current manager, colleagues, mentors, former coaches that I've worked with. I've had a great opportunity and I think been blessed to be influenced by a lot of different people in my life. And I think the thing that they all have in common is one, they cared, and two, they wanted me to be my best. And a lot of that has just been through feedback and just the investment that they've made in me. And I don't necessarily mean a financial investment, just time and understanding and help. So yeah, that's definitely the thing that drives me for sure.
Can you think of it? I'm curious, like a specific, were you in sports at all?
I was not very good. So I played high school basketball, and that was the end of my career.
Was there something like that, like early on where you were in theater, you were in something, and there was like a coach or someone who made you feel like you could do things. And so then it kind of impressed upon you, like, I want to help other people know that they can do things too.
Yeah. Again, I mean, I think whether it's family members or a coach, or again, even just like close friends and colleagues, I think them expressing that verbally, but more importantly through their actions. And then I think they also really pushed me. So I think that many times they would actually see maybe more than what I would see in myself. So that ability to push me and to drive me was really helpful. And I think those are some of the things that I try to do. I try to do as a leader. I try to do here within our center as well too, is that, again, I just really believe in our mission. I see the work that we do as being very, very powerful. And I think that ability to kind of push some of those boundaries and to push folks past maybe even beyond the brink of where they think they can go is growth. And yeah, I think so. I think there's been a lot of people that have had that influence, not necessarily just one situation, but a lot of people.
That's awesome. I remember that. Have you ever seen Akilah and the Bee?
No, I've not.
Oh, it's a great movie. You got to watch it.
Okay.
But when you said that, you remind me of that, because at one point she talks about having 5,000 coaches or something like that. And so it is like, you can't, it's not the one person, it's the many, many, many that like create this success in a person or whatever. So yeah, I love that. I love that so much.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I really think so. I mean, I think about the type of thought leaders that come in here to our center. So, we've had, individuals like Marshall Goldsmith, who is like probably the greatest executive coach in the world. So for me not to sit back and listen to him would be crazy. You were here and talked about inclusive leadership. So for me not to sit back and learn something from that is crazy. Another one of my favorite speakers is, for instance, is Beverly Kay, who wrote this wonderful book called Love 'Em or Lose 'Em. I mean, for me not to sit back and to take full advantage of those learnings and then in turn try to implement those key things that really stand out, that would be a shame. It'd be a waste, quite honestly, a complete waste. So that's where I say I think a lot of people have had an influence just on myself, both personally and professionally, over my life.
That makes a lot of sense. I love it. Now,
Yeah.
So what would the people who report to you now at the center, what would they actually say about your leadership style? How would they actually describe you as a leader?
Yeah, that would be a great question. I would think that they would tell you that I'm a combination of both very directive and also very supportive. So I try to meet that individual with where they're at. If they're newer, I tend to be a little bit more directive because they really need that direction to move forward and to get going. And I want to try to lessen frustrations. And those individuals that have been here for a while, again, I think I provide them with a lot more support. So I would say those would be a couple things. I would also say that they would tell you that I have very high standards and again, believe in the work that we do. So it's level of being very critical. I also think they would say that I'm the type of leader that wants to see them grow and develop. That's one of the things that I'm really proud of. A lot of our team has gone back and continued their education, or they're working on certifications. For instance, we have one who is working on a certification starting either today or tomorrow on understanding like the leadership practices inventory and how to administer that assessment and provide feedback. So their growth is critically important. So I hope that would stand out. And then I think the other things would be that I'm an individual that provides feedback. I do care about their well-being, which is really important, and I'm forward-thinking. So those are the things that I would hope that they would say. Yeah.
Nice. That's great. Well, so for those who are listening now, this is always that time in the podcast where I like to ask the question of, Think of a time for me where maybe you weren't maybe this whole leader with heart concept, the caring leader, the leader who's uplifting, the leaders who's showing a path forward, who's trying to develop people. And maybe you weren't that leader. Can you think of a specific story or instance? Because that's like the richness of this podcast, is
Yeah,
really hearing that. Can you tell us what that was? And then how did you come out of it?
sure. So you only want one? That's crazy, because I could probably give you like 100, right? Yeah. So I think I'm pretty hard on myself. So when I think about those times where I've not been at my best, yeah, I think it's really tough to determine like one particular event. So I think for me, a part of that really comes back to I think what it really kind of comes down to, if I had to really clarify that, are probably some things that I'm continuing to work on myself. So, I tend to be a driver. I tend to like things the way that I like. I tend to be a perfectionist as well too. I think one of the really cool things that we do here at the center is to administer a lot of assessments. So one of the biggest growing things for me is taking an accountability assessment and finding out that my behavior is one that many times I will often try to jump in and save, rescue, and fix, or push things forward when I don't see them going my own particular way. So I think for me, that is probably where I have not been at my best, is when I jump into those types of moments where things aren't moving. So I swoop in, I try to fix it, I try to push it. And I think the biggest learning for me is whether a team member or when I catch myself, and I think I'm getting better at catching myself, to saying like, it's okay if we drop the ball on this. It's okay if we fail on this. It's okay if we don't hit a home run on this, because it's really the learning that comes from it that's going to be helpful, and it's going to be genuine for each one of our team members. So for me, yeah, I think that is probably where I've had my biggest moments, is during those times where I just try to maybe take on more, or I want it done my way, and no other way is going to be better. And I think I've learned over time and made those modifications, where, again, not perfect, but I think I'm much better at catching myself and saying, okay, I've got to let this one go. Like, I've got to step back on this one and let's see where it goes. I need to be better at coaching. I need to be better at providing additional feedback to help my team.
Has someone ever called you on the carpet on that? So like in a specific instance, or someone ever said like, gosh, you're really on me, or can I have some space, or anything like that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, of course. And I think that is probably one of the most valuable things about the culture that we've built on our team, is that we're very transparent, we're very authentic, and we're very real with each other. So, so we have time set aside, for instance, whether it's at our Monday morning meetings, where we talk about things that are going really well, or things that we need to change, or things that we need to eliminate. And I appreciate that. Like, I appreciate that feedback, because, sometimes in our eyes, we may not be going a direction that we want to go. I mean, it's never intentional, right? Like, I don't think that there's probably any leaders that wake up in the morning saying like, I really wish that if I could just kind of push the envelope a little bit and upset some folks, we'll do some really great work today. But it's fair to say, whether it's personally or professionally, we sometimes fall outside of those rails. So yeah, that's one of the things that I really and greatly appreciate and love about my team, is that they'll call me on the carpet on it. And they know that I'll call them on the carpet on things that they're working on as well too. So I think we have to model those things that we bring thought leaders in to talk about. I think we have to model those things that we teach and we train. And we also have to be, I think, cognizant of that we're never perfect at it as well too. So those moments of learning are important.
What has been, in your opinion, because now as you've been working kind of in a university setting to a certain extent, I know you're kind of a little bit over here, but you're still in the university. Yep. I am curious to know what you've seen as far as changes in culture in just generally university settings versus maybe like private practice, like a private industry type of organization. Have you seen some interesting trends as it relates to culture or leadership that have kind of just come out maybe in the last decade?
Yeah, I don't necessarily know if there are hugely like big differences. I think about, even today, I think that we are wrestling with the same things that a lot of organizations that are maybe in a for-profit or a corporate environment are trying to navigate through, right? So I think we're all struggling to try to do more with less. right? Or at least the same. Can we do the same or more with less? I think that we're all trying to work extremely hard and wrestling with finding great talent that's out there. That's one of the things that I've noticed, that even as we're posting jobs, our job pool from what it was before COVID is dramatically smaller than what it was before COVID. Now, we've been able and are very fortunate to hire some really great people, but that pool is smaller, right? That pool is smaller. And, I also see a lot of energy and a lot of effort into working in some of the areas that you're working in, right? With diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging. So I think those are also some things that we're all, really embracing. But I don't think that's necessarily unique from a lot of other organizations that are out there as well too.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So for the listeners now who are, I call it like a crossroads, but it could be just, are they looking for some extra motivation? They really just want like some really unique ideas around leadership, how to be better, how to really drive, motivate the team. What might be a couple pearls of wisdom you might leave them with?
So I think honestly for myself, when I think about that particular question, I think of really two things, because it is so, I think, easy right now to kind of get swept into all the other stuff that are external, right? Like we can look at, okay, there's less people that are out there looking for jobs, or we can look at, budget cuts, or you can look at travel restrictions, or, you can look at all these negative things. And you can really put your energies and your efforts there. That's one choice. It's a choice in a road that I choose not to go down, and I hope a lot of other folks wouldn't go down it either. But I think for me, it's really remembering what the mission and the vision of what your organization does and the importance of it. You think about yourself as a leader. You signed up to go to work for that organization that you go into every single day, whether it's virtually or whether it's in person or whether it's blended. So I think that's one thing, is just remembering the vision and the mission and why it's so important. And then I think the other thing is to focus on it as well too. And I can give you, I think, a really great example of that too. So, I think back to March of 2020. We're just starting to really hear all this like COVID. And I can remember that actually very vividly, that our team was in a situation where, like everyone else, we were going to be sent home, right? We were going to have to go work from our homes. And at the time, you think back about that, we didn't know if it was 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years. We had no idea what it was going to be. And just to kind of build some context, 99%, and that's conservative, of our 200 plus programs a year were done face-to-face and in person. That's what we did. And I think it would have been real easy for us just to get caught and lost in poor us. What are we going to do? This is going to stink. Like, let's just go home. Let's wait it out. And our team didn't do that. Like, we really focused on our partners. We really focused on those that we served. And we made a very conscious decision, sitting around a table where, what are we going to do? And that decision was, we have great facilitators. We have great thought leaders. So we reached out to seven facilitators and said, we have folks that we love, that we care about, that are important to us, and we want to make sure that we're there for them when they need us, right? Like that's what leadership is about. It's not easy. One of the things that I think about is the definition that Jim Kouzes and Barry Posner have for leadership. It's the art of mobilizing others to want to struggle for shared aspirations. That's their definition. And I think we were in a struggle at that time, right? Like, we were in a struggle. So we sat around this table and said, okay, what can we have these facilitators do? So we did 7 1-hour like lunch and learn type topics on leading change, working remotely, gratitude, leading through disruption, resilience, and keeping positive. So those were some of the topics. And I remember someone on our team, I can't remember who it was, but I remember someone saying, well, what do you think success is going to look like? Because you've got to remember, like, we had never really put emphasis and effort on virtual learning. So we knew what Zoom was. We had sat in on a couple of Zoom meetings, but we had never used that platform for a training. And I remember thinking, I don't know, if we had 20, 25 people show up, that would be maybe good. It would definitely be us helping. It would be us giving back. It would be helping. I don't know, maybe that's a good number. Well, if you do the quick math on 7, that's 140 to 175 people. Heather, we ended up with something like 17 to 1,800 people on these 7 sessions. It was an amazing 7 days. And it showed us in real time the importance of our vision and our mission and what our center does. And from there, I think it took us roughly about 2 additional weeks for us to convert pretty much all the stuff that we were doing to a virtual format. But I think that if we would have focused on anything and everything but our vision and our mission and those that we serve, I feel very confident we wouldn't be where we're at today. So to me, I think that's the most important thing for leaders, is really to focus on their mission, focus on their vision and those that they serve. Like that's what it's all about. And
I love it.
Because I mean, if that can't get you excited, like what are you going to get excited about? Right? Like I've seen you train on inclusive leadership. You're excited about that. When you're not excited about that, that's when you should stop. You should go do something else, right? Like go do something else. But I think for us, that was such a critical moment. It was a moment that, when we look back, like I was just so proud of our team, so proud of what they did and how they worked together. We're a small group, but wow, that to me, that was it. Like that was leadership. It's like, boom, we're done. That was
Love it. That's a great story, Brent. I love that. What a great example and case study for the entire university. I bet you too. I don't know if you were the ones who, pivoted the most quick, the quickest, and actually had a great result. So something to really share with everybody else. I think that's amazing.
Sure.
Okay, so for those, this is a part of the podcast. I forgot to do it, so I'm gonna do it now, and then we're gonna reinsert it just so you know it's in the proper order, Brent.
Okay.
I was supposed to ask you if you had a question of me. So, Brent, what is your question of me? This is that time where you get to ask me anything you want of me based on kind of my background and what you know of me.
Okay. All right. So that's this is powerful. So, I think for myself, and I think maybe for a lot of your listeners that are out there, one thing that I mentioned a little bit earlier is the pull of candidates that folks are seeing apply for positions. So I think it's really kind of maybe a 2-part question. One is, are there some things that maybe you could share that would help us in increasing that pull? Again, diversity, equity, and inclusion, those are all really critical things. So how can we really make sure we're maximizing a diverse pool when we're looking for candidates? And then 2, I think also maybe just some different ideas and thoughts around, how do we continue to create an inclusive environment in these environments that are still somewhat blended or a hybrid type of environment. So I think those are 2 things that quite honestly would not only be a topic that I may have that question around, but I can also imagine your listeners as well too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm going to take the second one first and the first one second.
That sounds great. Let's do it.
I, as you could probably tell through the discussion I had with your group, that listening, I believe, is the foundation of much of everything that we need at work. So if we aren't listening to a wider swath of people, if we aren't including more people that are different types of people around the table, whether it's on the recruiting end of things, whether it's in just any decision-making things that we're doing, whether it's hybrid or virtual, doesn't really matter. If we're not including more, we're not inclusive.
Yeah,
so what often happens is we are in like little cocoons, the executive leadership team, the senior leadership team, we're right up here, and we don't open that door to include more people. Might be like, okay, a couple director level people might come in. We don't actually ask the people who are at the front line of the business. That would be the smartest place to start for everything. So when we go back to your question 1, as we think about recruitment, why not create a group that's inside your organization made up of diverse types of people, all different types of backgrounds, and help them have them brainstorm with you the way to recruit more diverse talent, right? So it's like, instead of us hitting our heads against the wall or like going to Harvard Business Review and looking at that, let's ask the people who look like the people we want in our organization what we can do to get people like them in our organization. Like, it makes total sense, right, when we say it that way? So I think that's the key.
It does.
It's just, let's bring more groups together. Let's circle around. Let's bring the troops in. Let's use the internal intelligence more than we do now to kind of come up with a solution to the problems that we have now. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I think that's great for a couple of reasons, because again, I think sometimes when we're looking at things that maybe we're wrestling with, we try to create something new, and so it's like out of the box and extremely creative. Again, not that there's anything wrong with that, right? But so many times, and I think that we see it as well too, is that the answers are really within those that we engage with, right? So it does make a lot of sense. You open up that door of engagement, and you're going to get a lot more answers.
Yeah, and you
solutions.
Hear, yeah, and you hear like things like going to recruit at historically Black colleges and universities, like go recruit there. You can get people there. You'll get more diversity there, which is obviously a great way to do it. Have partnerships that way.
Sure.
I'm just thinking, like, as I think about your very diverse community, right? Being able to even have like client roundtables where you're saying, we want to have more diversity. We want to have more of these things, whatever they are, and including them. So it's like those that are in the university, those are the clients to the university, those are vendors to the university. You're right. Yeah. There's so much brilliance sitting right there, and we are not utilizing it. So just something to be thinking about. And just so you know, I'm not sure I think you probably know this, Brent, but I'm kind of known as the employee whisperer. So my main focus is on employee retention and leadership, like caring leadership, right? And diversity, equity, inclusion developed for me right after George Floyd. So while we were talking about inclusion the entire time, so that listening, with listening being the whole portal for inclusion,
right?
The diversity, belonging stuff really came for me because I did a TED Talk in 2019 on transforming adversity into opportunity. And I didn't intend that to be a DEI talk. I did not. I know I look like I look, and so people assumed it, but that wasn't what it was about. It was more about, let's stop being victims. Let's challenge our thinking. Let's start to like kind of empower ourselves and uplift ourselves up. Let's stop pointing fingers. So that's why I did it. And then the pandemic hit. And then George Floyd and all the other things that happened. And then I was thrust to the forefront of, Heather, you kind of have to you have to make a decision. Who are you going to speak for? Are you going to speak for anyone besides like the general? It's all about employees. It's all been talking about employees and all the things they need. And finally, I just said, I guess I need to open up about this and start talking more about it. So just so you know, me talking about diversity, belonging in that way that I did with your group is really more of a last couple year phenomenon. I was mostly talking about employee loyalty, retention, leadership, caring, make sure that you care about your people. It's really the thing I'm most known for. So I don't know if you know that, but that's kind of an interesting thing.
We all know you're the employee whisperer. We all know that, right? It's not a secret. It's not a secret.
No, it's just true.
Yeah, no, and I think those were the employee engagement and the employee whisper piece for me was really kind of what attracted me to have that initial conversation, right? Like that's what a lot of our initial conversation was about. And yet, I think you bring up a really great point. Like when we have adversity and challenges and change, that's when a lot of great things happen. It's when things are going really well and things are really smooth, we tend not to see some of those really cool, whether it's innovative type of approaches or maybe solutions to things, because we get a little bit relaxed, right? We get a little bit relaxed. And, a lot of examples of whether it's products or services that have come out when there's challenges. I think that's when really great things rise to the top.
Yeah, I agree. I'm telling you, I think you and I could be talking for hours.
Probably so.
I so appreciate you. And it was obviously lovely to meet you in person. And I want us to continue our relationship, of course. And, for those who are listening, if you got a lot of good nuggets like I did, because I know I'll be going back and listening to this. And of course, we'll share it here in a few weeks for more and more people, and make sure that you share it. Don't forget to go on Apple Podcasts too, and make sure that if it's there, wherever you listen, you write that 5-star review. It helps that algorithm so that people can hear more and more of this content. And of course, don't forget to share it. So Brent, thank you so much for joining. I'm glad you'll share it. And for all the listeners out there, don't forget to share. So I appreciate that. But thank you so much for being here and sharing all your wisdom, your great stories and insights, and making me think a little bit differently about leadership as well.
I love it. Thanks, Heather. It's great to catch up again. And I look forward to you coming back to the center at some point in time too. So
Absolutely. Right. Take care, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Leadership with Heart podcast. Be well.
Right.